A young schoolteacher named Clara is stranded during a deadly mountain blizzard after her wagon overturns near an isolated ridge. Freezing and close to death, she's rescued by a silent mountain man named Elias Boone, who lives alone in a weather-beaten cabin deep in the Rockies. Clara wakes near Elias's fireplace with frostbite beginning in her hands. Elias is rough, guarded, and clearly hiding something. The storm traps them together for days. Clara notices strange rules. Never go outside after dark. Never enter the back hallway. Never ask about the locked room downstairs. At night, she hears scraping sounds, chains dragging, muffled crying. Elias slowly softens toward Clara. She learns he once had a wife and daughter who vanished years ago. Villagers nearby whisper that Elias killed them. Clara discovers children's drawings, tiny handmade toys, old bloodstains near the cellar door. One night the locked room door shakes violently from the inside. Clara steals the key during another storm. Inside she discovers not a prisoner, but a hidden underground shelter. Elias had been hiding a wounded young girl he rescued from violent outlaw hunters. The chains and locks were meant to keep the outlaws from finding her during raids. The outlaws finally arrive at the cabin. Elias and Clara defend the cabin through a brutal snowstorm. Clara learns Elias's family was actually murdered by the outlaw gang years earlier. Elias has spent years secretly rescuing runaway children from traffickers crossing the mountains. Together, they survive the attack. Spring arrives. Clara chooses to stay in the mountains and help Elias turn the hidden shelter into a safe refuge for lost travelers and abandoned children. After escaping an abusive fiancé, frontier widow Eleanor Hart flees into the mountains during the worst blizzard in decades. Her horse collapses near the remote cabin of a feared mountain trapper named Gideon Vale. Reluctantly lets her stay. The cabin is warm but unsettling. One hallway permanently locked. Strange burn marks on the floor. Old wedding photographs turned face down. Eleanor hears someone whispering through the walls at night. Gideon becomes furious when she asks questions. Eleanor slowly sees Gideon's gentle side, carving wooden animals, tending injured wolves, reading old poetry books. Yet the locked room terrifies her. She discovers women's dresses preserved inside trunks, medicine bottles, journal pages mentioning the sickness. The storm worsens and supplies run low. Eleanor finally breaks into the room. Inside is a preserved memorial room dedicated to Gideon's wife and daughters who died from a winter plague. Gideon has kept the room untouched for years out of grief. But there's another discovery. A hidden tunnel beneath the floorboards. Eleanor's abusive fiancé arrives with armed men to drag her home. Gideon reveals why he isolated himself. Years ago, he killed corrupt men, protecting illegal mining operations. End of line. The tunnel becomes their only escape route during the storm. H3. After surviving the mountains together, Eleanor chooses freedom instead of returning to civilization. She and Gideon rebuild the cabin and finally open the locked room to sunlight for the first time in years. Journalist Rebecca Moore travels into the mountains searching for a missing hiker story when a brutal blizzard leaves her stranded with a legendary recluse called the Bear of Black Ridge. The mountain man, Rowan Mercer, barely speaks. Rebecca notices claw marks on doors, reinforced windows, rifles beside every entrance. One room is locked with iron chains. Every night, something breathes heavily behind the door. Rebecca becomes convinced Rowan is hiding a monster or captive. She secretly investigates. Shredded clothing, medical equipment, silver traps in the woods. Rowan warns, if that door opens during the storm, neither of us survives. Rebecca opens the room while Rowan is away. Inside she finds not a prisoner, but Rowan's infected brother. Years earlier, Both men were attacked by a strange animal deep in the mountains. The brother transforms violently during winter fevers. Rowan has spent years protecting nearby towns by imprisoning him during storms. The creature escapes during the blizzard. Rebecca and Rowan must survive through the night while hunting it in whiteout conditions. Rowan sacrifices himself to save Rebecca. Rebecca publishes the story years later, but changes the names to protect Rowan's memory. She leaves flowers at the ruined cabin every winter. A pregnant woman named Sarah Whitmore becomes stranded in the mountains after fleeing a deadly train robbery. She finds shelter with a giant, silent mountain man named Caleb Cross. Caleb seems intimidating, but kind. Sarah notices tiny footprints in snow outside, laughter echoing at night, a locked upstairs room. Caleb insists nobody else lives there. Sarah begins hearing a child crying after midnight. Sarah believes Caleb kidnapped a child. She plans escape, but the storm blocks every path. Caleb reveals he once lost his family in a fire. Sarah discovers hidden toys and fresh food trays outside the locked room. Sarah breaks into the room. Inside is a terrified orphan girl hiding from dangerous bounty hunters. Caleb rescued her after witnessing a massacre involving stolen gold. The girl holds evidence powerful men are willing to kill for. Armed hunters arrive during the storm. Sarah, Caleb, and the girl defend the cabin. Sarah uses her intelligence while Caleb fights brutally to protect them. Months later, Sarah gives birth safely in the cabin. Caleb becomes protector of a new family, formed through survival and sacrifice. During a whiteout blizzard, traveling nurse Lucy Bennett stumbles upon an isolated cabin where a mysterious mountain man named Silas lives alone with one terrifying rule: never enter my wife's room. Lucy notices fresh flowers outside the locked room, piano music at night, a second plate set at dinner. Silas behaves as though his wife is still alive. Lucy suspects madness. Lucy grows emotionally connected to Silas. She learns townspeople believe he murdered his wife years ago. Strange things occur. Footprints appear indoors. Whispers echo through walls. The locked door creaks open slightly at night. Lucy enters the room expecting horror. Instead, she finds an elaborate medical chamber. Silas's wife is alive, but bedridden with a rare neurological illness that leaves her nearly motionless. Silas isolated himself to care for her away from cruel institutions. An avalanche destroys part of the cabin. Lucy helps Silas perform emergency treatment during the storm. Together they risk their lives transporting the wife through deadly snow. Lucy remains in the mountains as their caretaker. The story becomes one of devotion, sacrifice, and misunderstood love. A thief named Naomi Reed escapes into the mountains after stealing money from ruthless railroad criminals. A violent blizzard forces her into the cabin of ex-hunter Thomas Hale. Thomas distrusts Naomi immediately. Naomi notices hidden rifles, secret maps, a locked steel door beneath the cabin. Men on horseback search the mountains outside. Naomi discovers Thomas once worked for the same criminal railroad company she robbed. He disappeared after witnessing mass killings connected to land theft. The locked room hides documents capable of exposing powerful men. Naomi considers stealing the evidence for herself, but she learns Thomas has been protecting families displaced by the railroad. The criminals track Naomi to the cabin. A massive shootout erupts during the blizzard. The cabin catches fire. Thomas and Naomi escape through hidden tunnels beneath Black Pine Ridge, while preserving the evidence. Months later, the corruption scandal destroys the railroad empire. Naomi abandons her criminal life and helps Thomas build a settlement for displaced mountain families.